Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. The national champions.
Welcome to 3 the Hard Way Sports Podcast. From 3 guys who talked sports together over lunch for over 10 years. Probably eating a Fudgy the Whale in that time.
Ball is tipped, and there you are. You're running for your life.
Welcome everybody to 3 the Hard Way Sports Podcast. I'm Bryan here with, from Rumson, New Jersey, Alex Shanley, who was listed as Rick Pitino on today's episode. But how are you, Alex?
I'm good. Little depressed St. John's lost, but I'm a Duke fan too. So, but
You're
I wanted
Duke
them to
fan.
move on. I really thought they could make, a little bit more noise this year. But Duke was the better team last night. So,
And from Parts Unknown, we have Michael Pippersick. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well. Bracket busted. I'm also feeling a little bit contrite, but we'll get to that as we start talking about this.
Well, okay, so let's start. I mean, obviously, the hot topic is the USA flag football team selection, which was made this week. That's the number one thing. I saw. No, it's obviously the NCAAs, but just so you know, RG3 made the team. I don't understand how that happened, but
he made the team. I know he was talked about for the team. How old is he? He's not even that old. I don't think.
I didn't even know. What is he doing on that? Anyway,
but didn't like the regular team destroy the NFL guys?
Yeah, they destroyed the NFL guys.
Oh boy, did they?
Oh yeah, it wasn't even close.
Oh boy,
47-20. Yeah, something like
that. Oh
geez.
Is Tom Brady on the team?
He can't because he's coming back
on the USA.
Play.
He's on the players team. Yeah, not on the USA team.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's guys you've never heard of on this team. But anyway, that's enough. That's not the topic right now. It's not. That's definitely not the. And it definitely is not the CFL draft, which I think went on the other day. So I don't think you guys cared about that. So let's talk about the.
Oh, my friend's kid was possibly drafted. I should look if he got drafted.
March Madness. How was that? Wait, what's going on? I don't even know. I haven't watched any games. I haven't even turned it on. No, I'm just kidding. But we've been watching a lot, especially since my wife is at like a 93% on her bracket right now, which I cannot believe. Every year, my entire marriage, just about, she's beaten me. So it's pretty crazy.
She finds a way.
Isn't that amazing? I just don't understand. That knows nothing about the sport. Doesn't even care. Just every year, just picks names. Whether or not the kids are, the people are cool in that college or not, or whatever, and
cooler colors.
Yeah,
tougher mascot.
That they sound like all weenies at that college. They're not going to be good at sports. Yeah, it's like amazing how she does these things. But
do you know who else was really good at that? Bryan, picking teams without any knowledge was Dwayne on What's Happening. Do you remember when they had the gambling episode?
Yes.
You would pick football teams based on whose mascot was tougher. So they were like, "Why are you picking the Buccaneers? They're the worst team in football." And he's like, "Well, Buccaneer could definitely beat whoever this other mascot was," and they were winning all his money until he wasn't, and then he got into trouble. And there's the lesson, kids: don't gamble.
Yeah, there you go. So she's like ripping up 2 different pools right now. It's amazing. But okay, so let's go into. So obviously last night St. John's lost. It was kind of upsetting. Who wants to talk about that?
I mean, it was a great game. St. John's was getting the better of them in the first half. It was back and forth, and then right before the half, they took the lead, and it seemed like a good game. I mean, I don't mean to be this negative, but the quality of basketball, if these are like 2 of the best teams in the country, there was a lot of like mistakes and bad defense. But it was a really, really good game to watch. And, once halftime hit, it was like, okay, St. John's is going to be in this. And then in the second half, it was like the depth of Duke and great defense that they played. They switched to a zone defense to throw St. John off a little bit. I think it got to a point where Duke just started to pull away enough that you felt like, I'm not sure that St. John can overcome this. But
Well, St.
I thought
John's
it was a
had their
good game.
chances. They had their
Yeah.
chances.
They
had
couldn't
many
make
chances.
shots, but that's been
Oh,
the
and that
problem all
last
year.
that last shot was terrible. That
Yeah.
last 3-pointer from the one white guy on the team. I don't know. That was a horrible shot and I could see the other players' faces. If you watch, they're all like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
They still had time left. I just don't understand.
Yeah, they could have probably gone for a quick 2 and fouled instead of that. That was kind of a rushed shot. It was contested. Dylan Darling was pretty far out, but Rick Pitino's talked about how that guy's got pretty large church bells and is willing to take that shot. But yeah, I thought Alex mentioned the zone. Duke has been a great defensive team all year, but they went to that zone which neutralized St. John's that was unexpectedly shooting the ball really well from the 3-point line. And then Caleb Foster, who had been out for 3 weeks and had surgery, had broken a bone in his foot against Carolina, the final game of the season. He kind of flipped it over because Caden Boozer got off to a really nice start, was getting to the bucket, got like 7 points early, and he's not been scoring a ton. He's been scoring a lot more since Caleb Foster got hurt. But when Caleb Foster came in the second half, playing on a bum foot, he scored 11. I think he really kind of changed that dynamic of it. And I thought Duke did a really good thing. They were trying to just give the ball to Cameron Boozer every time because he was just a freight train. He was just overpowering everybody. I was a little surprised to not see Ruben Prey as much in the second half.
I know.
He was 4 for 4 from the 3-point line, and then the last 8 minutes, he's not out there. It was like his shot making was unexpected yesterday, but his energy was just terrific. Like he got his hand on every missed shot, maybe not getting the rebound, but just keeping the ball alive. And I thought he was kind of frustrating Cameron Boozer a little bit just because of his gangly energy.
Yeah. He was so good in the first half. It was
terrific. Yeah,
crazy.
Is that the guy who looks like Joey Ramone? What's that?
Yeah, he is an odd-looking bird, man. He's odd-looking bird. Prey. His last name is Prey. He's a Portuguese guy, and certainly St. John's had no answer for Isaiah Evans. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a stretch where he scored 7-8 points in a row, a 3, a couple of buckets, and one. I mean, he was terrific for them as well. But
was his name Okafor? He was just a man. He was a man among boys yesterday. But again, he didn't have enough. What's that guy's name? The guy used to be on Kansas.
Yeah,
he was terrific. But he, again, it's almost like he was the one-man train too. They should have fed him the ball all the time.
Yeah, he was in the first half. He seemed to be kind of existing on the periphery of the game. I kept waiting for him to do more. He was more of a facilitator because he's a great passer. I think he only had 6 points in the first half. He ended up with 17. They got a good game out of Bryce Hopkins. He played really well also. But yeah, they just didn't have enough. I felt like if you got Ruben Prey in there the last 8 minutes, I mean, he would have been a threat, particularly against the zone. I mean, he was just finding those spots in the corner. So if you were allowing, a guy like Dylan Darling or Bryce Hopkins to like kind of penetrate, draw the defense and kick it out, you had Ruben Prey out there. He had 12 points in 13 minutes, 4 of 4. I mean, and wasn't there. So I don't know if that came up in Patino's post-game press conference, but I was a little surprised that when they were really struggling to score and Duke had kind of taken control of the game that they weren't getting Ruben Prey back in the game. So a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, it is because, and again, a missed free throw, a stupid shot at the end. They could have still won, even with all that going on.
But did you feel like they were going to win?
No.
Either did I.
Duke took the lead. As soon as Duke took the lead, they've got control.
But they kept fighting back, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that about them. They kept fighting back.
Yeah.
And when they popped the starting lineups onto the screen in the beginning, it was 3 seniors, a graduate transfer, Bryce Hopkins, and a junior, Dylan Darling. Duke was 3 freshmen, a sophomore, and one senior, Malik Brown, who only played 22 minutes. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this could be one of those men against boys games. But
Yeah.
I mean, Cameron Boozer played really well, really strong. And that the play that befuddled me, and I think it befuddled Patino as well, because he was screaming, was I think there was around a minute left in the game, and St. John's was down 1 or 2, and Duke got the ball to Patrick Ngongba on the sideline in front of the Duke bench, and Dylan Mitchell is kind of trying to foul him, but not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
He
Duke
wasn't
called the
sure.
timeout, and Patino was livid
Yeah.
because Ngongba was, I think, 1 for 6 from the free throw line, and
Yeah,
looked
I know. That was a bad play. Yeah,
looked
I did.
really
I
nervous.
think they were down more than a bucket at that time. I
What
think
were
they
they?
down. Yeah, I think they
Well,
were.
I know Patino was livid. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right
He
about that.
was.
Yeah.
Maybe they were.
Well, he
down-
was yelling foul, 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 and the guy did nothing about it.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of gently slapped at the guy.
Yeah.
Not enough.
No, that's an interesting thing, guys, about sports, and you always wonder sometimes maybe this one and done thing. These guys don't have enough time to actually learn the sport, and they don't know the nuances about hey, maybe I should foul. There's this many, we only have one timeout left. I have to do this. We're down by this. We're in the bonus. We're in the bonus right now. We're not in the bonus. I just noticed that a lot of these players don't seem to have the instincts that they would have if they were a junior or senior. That's my thought. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but
I mean, I think it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say I'll use Alex's phrase. I don't think it's a one and done thing. I think if anything, it might be an AAU thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is not that situational awareness to know, hey, this guy's 1 for 6 from the foul line. There's a minute or whatever left in the game. Let me foul this guy, put him on the line, because there's a very high probability that he's going to throw up a brick. But of course, the 3 of us are sitting on our couches watching this and thinking this, and these guys are in the throes of, a Sweet 16 game against the number 1 team in the field, 18,000 fans screaming down upon them. So
Yeah, it's a different mentality, but I think that maturity, right, that's really hurt the NBA too, right? You have these kids coming in one and dones, and they're expected to actually do something in the NBA, and I think that's why there's been such a rise with the European player, right? Like these European players are starting much younger in a more professional atmosphere,
yeah.
and growing up in that, growing up to be 20, 21, 22, but they started at on a professional team at 15 or 16, or in a professional academy. And you see these kids in the US coming up through AAU and then playing 1 year of college with, a really great coach, and then being tossed into the NBA and, not having, like you said, Brad, the basic skills of what's the game, where are we in the game? What should I be doing? What should my position on the court be? Looking at all those factors versus just, hey, I got to get the ball and score the ball. And I think it's hurt the game for sure.
well, let's look at and again we'll go back, but remember the Villanova team with Ed Pickney and all them, but no one gave them a chance. But they were all mostly juniors and seniors.
Mhm.
They were one of the smartest teams that I've ever seen. Again, because they didn't have the skill of some of these other teams, but they knew how to play the game, and they feasted on the fact that some of the other teams were much younger than them.
Mhm.
And I think I've seen that throughout, watching these, over the years, and I've noticed this lack of it, maybe the last 10 years, because there's hardly any kids go to, stay in college for 4 years, and they don't have time to learn the game of basketball. Then they go to the pros, and they have to sit the bench for a while because they really don't know the game of basketball yet.
Yeah, and that manifested itself in these mid majors, right? The mid majors did well for a number of years because they were all seniors, and they would grow up, and whether it was Wichita State or I forget some of the other guys that went far. I mean, St.
Well, all those
Peter's.
Gonzaga teams and
Gonzaga
St.
teams.
Mary's as well has always been like a quality mid-major.
There was another team though, I can't remember, but anyway, they were seniors, but now the mid majors are all getting rated by the transfer portal, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you get these guys that have a great year, and all of a sudden Rick Pitino comes along and takes them away and brings them to St. John for a year. So they have a year here, they have a year there, and then hopefully they stick around. But for the most part, if they think they're going to get drafted, they're going to get drafted. And I don't blame them for getting drafted, right? I mean, they make good money in NIL and in college now, but going to the pros is a different thing with guaranteed contracts and big money. And so I don't blame them for going there, but it's almost like the NBA has to shift a little bit. And I think they try to do that with the G League and all that. And I don't know.
I mean, I would love for the NBA to say you can't go to the draft unless you've completed 3 years of college or 3 years of schooling. But they'll never do that.
The NFL does that, right? But that's more of a physical maturity thing, probably, because you can't.
That's what they say.
Yeah,
but it's also a financial maturity thing too, because a lot of these kids don't know what they're getting with the money, and they get all this money, and they lose it all, and the next, then maybe they don't make it, maybe they don't last. They last 3 years or 4 years in the pros, and they have no money left to show after they've had millions of dollars because they blew it all on cars and women and jewelry, and that's the problem. Like that's what happened with Mike when you got out of college, right? You blew all your extra money on
all
cars,
of it,
women, and jewelry.
the three things you mentioned: jewelry, cars, and women.
All your NIL money, Mike.
All my NIL money, all my illegal NCAA Division III benefits that I got.
A bagel with cream cheese.
Exactly. $6 meal money after a game. Here, take another $6 so you can get an extra Big Mac.
Well, what other? Okay, so what's the next game? Let's talk another. What other game really intrigued you guys for the last couple of days? There's been a lot of good ones, but what really. What surprised you more?
I've got to step in on this one. So the Duke St. John's game pretty much wore me out. So I was conked out, and I missed a couple of good ones that we can talk about. But the one I want to get to is Tennessee hammering my Final Four pick, Iowa State. So Iowa State was missing Joshua Jefferson, who had rolled his ankle, still a 2 seed, still had a great season, and Tennessee just bully balled them into a 76-40-62 defeat. So I've got to get off of this soapbox I've been on and apologize to Rick Barnes, because I've given this guy a hard time for
you don't
years.
Have to apologize. Yeah.
He always destroyed my pool back when he had these really highly seeded teams at Texas. He hasn't been to the Final Four since 2003, and now he's made his 3rd straight Elite Eight. So I got to apologize to Rick Barnes. He's kind of unlocked a little bit of a formula there. He puts together a really physical, rugged team. A lot of like guys that are 6'8", 6'9", very physical on the glass, and then he kind of has a really good point guard orchestrating things. So the previous 2 years he had Sakai Ziegler, got to Final 8, lost both years, and now he's there. He's got Nate Ament, a freshman who's been just terrific for Iowa State, or rather for Tennessee. So Rick Barnes now in his 3rd straight Elite Eight. So very impressive feat. Not many teams can say that. Not many coaches can say that. I'm still rooting against him, I guess, against Michigan. But nice job, Rick Barnes. Now I might have to start picking you again.
I mean, UConn last night showed up.
They are tough, aren't they?
Yeah,
and when you don't think, they're short a player this year, they're missing a score, they just come to play. They're well coached and athletic, and
it's amazing. They just keep hanging around.
Yeah,
keep hanging around.
Yeah.
Definitely not a desirable place to go to school, but they get good people there. It just is amazing. I don't know what they do and how that happens, but
and Tom Izzo just can't get over the hump, right? Like
he might be my next guy. I had them going to the Final Four.
Yeah, me too. I had them in the finals, but they haven't done it in years.
They are another team that just, I feel like, gets victimized by their inability to make 3-pointers. So they were 4 of 16 last night. They only shot 40% from the floor. So they get dragged into the mud. And that's normally where they like to play. But I think at that point it's just who's a little bit tougher. And UConn, for as much as we may think Danny Hurley's a lunatic or whatever, that team is always really, really tough. And I think he's gotten them to the point where they just play their best when it matters the most. So, okay, yeah, we get blown out in the Big East tournament, and they go into the toughest bracket in the tournament, and you're wondering, well, how far can they go? Well, now they've knocked off the 3 seed, and I had Michigan State going to the Final Four, but if I was Duke, I'd probably be a little bit worried here against
Yeah.
UConn. I really would. If I had to redo my bracket, I think I'd pick UConn to beat Duke. I think it's just that toughness, that maturity. Tarris Reed Jr. has been playing like a man. I mean, in this tournament and through the Big East. Braylon Mullins, the freshman, is starting to play a tiny bit better every game. He's making a couple shots. He made 2 3-pointers last night. And, solo ball is always very solid, doesn't turn the ball over much. And then, Alex Caravan is just that really smart, heady player that's like a coach on the floor and looks
Yeah.
like he can't run, looks like he can't jump. And then he puts together a line where he plays 37 minutes and he goes 17, 7, and 3, blocks 2 shots, 2 offensive rebounds, only turns the ball over twice in 37 minutes. Like that guy to me is like the orchestrator of things on the court. So yeah, UConn looks.
And he would have been drafted last year, right? Mike, if he decided to go.
So I can come back, and I think they've already retired his number there. I mean, he's
Yeah, they did. They retired his number this year.
yeah, just kind of like
He stayed.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
stayed.
stayed.
And Tarris Reed Jr. I think he's a senior as well. Solo Ball is a veteran player. So we talk about all of these one and done teams, but UConn, you've got some players on that team that have been through this before, and they're going to be facing a Duke team that's not got a lot of experience in big moments like this. And the crowd is in DC, and I think there's Duke always travels well, and I think UConn's going to have a lot of fans there. I think that's a real kind of Final Four matchup in the Elite Eight.
And UConn's not deep, right? They're
No.
very heavy on their starters, and
Oh yeah,
it'll be interesting to see next year what Hurley's able to do, bringing players in, because he's
Yeah.
going to have to reload there for sure.
yeah.
Mike,
Portal.
Mike, you said that you think some people say that Hurley isn't. He is a nut. He's a good coach. He's a real good. I mean, there's no denying that. But the guy's a strange dude.
Yeah, it's a little much.
But don't they? But don't they all scream at these players? Like, I mean, look at Patino last night, right?
Oh yeah,
With Sellers, he's screaming at him, and cursing at him.
yeah. There's
Hurley just does it during the game and at the referees, which
Well, old school coaches
old
do
school.
that. They did
Yeah,
because that's kind of how we grew up. I mean, I got screamed
yes.
out all the time. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
my college coach.
Mhm.
High school coaches.
Yes.
Believe me, I got screamed out all the time. I was probably and it was
Yeah.
I probably deserved it too.
Yeah, but those, Patino, obviously older coach, Dan Hurley, cut from the cloth of his father, Bob Hurley, a legend in Jersey City at St. Anthony's. But then you had John Shire on the sideline, very relaxed on the sideline. Younger coach, very chill. Izzo, very animated on the sidelines. But yeah, I guess those younger coaches are probably a little bit closer to the game, having played more recently and are a little bit more relaxed. John Shire looked very chill the entire game.
Yeah, I just don't. I get worried sometimes if a coach is not fired up because, you spend all this time training and coaching and developing these kids, and then they don't listen. Like, why did I spend all this time? Guys, we sat in the gym for hours testing
Mhm.
the training. There's a reason why I made you guys learn this stuff, not for you to go screw up and do, not foul somebody when the an important play of the game. The time's winding down. You need to foul the bad shooter. I guarantee you they had that discussion in the huddle. Hey, if you're gonna foul anybody, foul this guy because he can't shoot. Like they have these discussions. You know that, Mike. They do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Some people don't listen or they just don't pay attention, and then when the game's going, they forget.
yeah. The moment gets too big for some guys. They just kind of forget, or whatever happens, nerves take over. Yeah,
No, it happens in baseball too.
Mhm.
Before the games, they sit down and they chart pitches. They look at, hey, this person's batting. Hey, guess what? Aaron Judge is batting. He, stay away from this area of the plate. Don't, especially if you got if you're ahead, if you have behind in the count, he's going to be looking for a fastball. Don't throw one here. And these guys are in the crowds there, the lights, the cameras, and they forget and they throw a pitch down the middle and it ends up in the bleachers. This is what happens in basketball a lot. I just noticed that they can train all they want, and the best coach teams seem to do better because they kind of remember they it's like embedded in them. They train so much that it's second nature. But again, those are the kids that have been there for a couple of years.
What about Michigan?
Yeah, they beat Alabama.
I
Right?
mean, they whooped them. I mean, Michigan's been on a roll, and
Could they win it?
Oh, Michigan won comfortably. Yeah, they were kind of
No,
in control of
could
that
they
game.
win it? Could they beat UConn or Duke?
yeah, I think so.
They're very good.
They're
Yeah.
very good.
They've got a Jersey kid, Yaxel Landeborg, on their team. That's very good. They're very big. Actually, they've got two Jersey guys in their starting lineup. Elliot Cadeau, who started his career at North Carolina
He
as a
talks
point
a
guard.
lot.
What's that?
He talks a lot.
Yeah, he's
It's
really
just-
found his game there, though.
Yeah, he last night in the Alabama game, they were up, I think 6 or 7, and he's looking at the Alabama players just saying it's over. The game's over. I'm like, man. And the announcers were laughing about it. They're like, I think it's a little too early, but the
Yeah.
kid's got confidence,
Yeah,
So-
they've had a great season, and yeah, they could certainly get through to the Final Four. They've got to beat Tennessee. I mean, Michigan's obviously got a pretty good size advantage, and they've had a terrific season. Michigan. I mean, they've been top 3 basically the whole season. They were just hammering everybody the first 15, 20 games of the season before they got into Big Ten play. They were beating up some really good competition by 20, 30 points. So yeah, they look really good. I mean, you've got a chance at having 3 Big Ten teams in the Final Four. I mean,
That's
you've
pretty
got
crazy.
Michigan's going to be playing Tennessee. Out west, you've got a fantastic Arizona team. They look great.
Yeah.
They're playing Purdue to get to the Final Four, and then on the other side, you've got Illinois, who I had not seen play at all this year either, and they look terrific too. So they're going to play Iowa. So you're guaranteed a Big Ten team coming out of that bracket, and then Duke and UConn, the lone non-Big Ten inclusive battle. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, Elite Eight. Here we go.
Yeah, a lot of fun. But the one pick I like, because now I've kind of been decimated. I had Arizona winning it all, and I still feel good about that pick. They look really good. They're got a lot of depth. Alex said earlier that there are teams that don't play with a lot of depth. UConn being the example he mentioned, but Arizona's got a lot of depth. They've got really good size and terrific guards, which is like a big thing. The indictment against Florida being the first 1 seed being knocked out is that they didn't have experienced guards, and then Arizona's got 2 terrific guards. I mean, Jaden Bradley was the Big 12 player of the year, and he's just a terrific point guard and a facilitator. Brandon Burris is their other guard. He's a freshman, but doesn't play it like a freshman. So that Arizona Purdue game is going to be another great one. I mean, you've got really, really good matchups for the Elite Eight.
Yeah, no, good stuff.
It's
It's a
been
great
good
tournament.
watch. It's
It's a great
been a good
tournament.
watch for sure.
okay,
It is
so
every
who's-
year.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you're saying you're picking Arizona now.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with Arizona, but if I had to go around the other matchups, I think I like UConn to get to the Final Four. I like Illinois, who's got Peja Stojakovic's son, and then a lot of foreign players. They've got 4 Balkan players. Got Stojakovic, who's Serbian. They've got a couple of Croatian guys, and Mirkovic and Ivisic, the Itches, as Alex would call all these guys. And then they've got 1 Bosnian player as well, another Ivisic. So yeah, I mean, I like Illinois a lot, and they played a game in the mud against Houston the other night in Houston, and won that game. So I like Illinois there, and then that Tennessee Michigan game. Sorry, Rick Barnes, I'm still going to pick against you here. I will go with Michigan. So I'd see Michigan, Arizona, pair of 1 seeds, and then UConn, Illinois, a 2-3 matchup potentially. Would be my picks now. How about you guys?
Yeah, I have Arizona winning it all too, Mike, in my
Yeah.
bracket. So I like that. I like the Iowa story. So
Yeah,
I'd like
it's a
to
great
see them.
story.
Yeah, I'd like to see them beat Illinois. I think they've had a great run, and being a 9 seed, I think that makes them the lowest seed
Mhm.
left in the tournament. So interesting there, and Duke UConn will be. I mean, that to me is a classic rivalry. I think they threw this out the other night, and I saw it online a few days ago. I guess every time Duke has ever won a national championship, they've always beaten St.
St.
John's. in the
John's.
tournament.
That is such
So,
a weird stat.
right. So they got that going for them. So I'll take Duke over UConn. And I haven't seen Michigan play a whole lot this year. I've watched a few games in the tournament, and I haven't seen a lot of Tennessee. So I'll be rooting for Tennessee because my love for Michigan
Rick
isn't very
Barnes.
deep. So I'll take Rick Barnes there. But I'm going to take Arizona. I think they've looked like the most complete team in the tournament so far, and the Purdue game's not going to be easy, but they've been blowing teams out, and Arizona, and I continue to see that. So I picked them from the beginning, so I'll stick with them to win it all.
Nice.
Yeah, I have no pig in this steak here because I none of the teams I picked are left, so I basically can't say I agree with you. Arizona's tough right now. I would like to see somebody like Iowa win, that no one even thinks about. I mean, I want to see good games. I don't really. There's no team here I'm really rooting for, because everybody I picked is gone. But I'm terrible at this. I've never been good at this. So I really wanted St. John's to win. I really did. And
Iowa's got a really interesting story. So their coach is Ben McCollum, and one of their better players is this guy Bennett Sturts. So the two of those kind of came as a package deal. They are at their third school in 3 years.
Jeez.
They won a D2 national championship at Northwest Missouri State. Ben McCollum turned that into the Drake job, and he brought Bennett Sturts with him. Drake won a game in the NCAA tournament. He's turned that into the Iowa job, brought Bennett Sturts along. Wow. So now the questions have been coming to Ben McCollum are, hey, there's a lot of these jobs opening up. The Carolina job has opened up. There's potentially the Kansas job opens up, although I don't think that would go outside of the coaching tree they've got there. Could the Kentucky job open? A lot of jobs are opening up, and they're asking Ben McCollum, are you going to go? And he, of course, is saying, no, I'm staying here. I'm staying in Iowa. But his track record indicates that he's just, great upward trajectory, right? To go from D2, where he was just dominant. He won, I think, three out of 4 national championships or something crazy like that. Turns that into a mid-major job, does fantastic there in 1 year, and here he is in the Big Ten. And look, in a loaded Big Ten, he's gotten that team as a 9 seed to the Elite Eight, upset the defending champion. It's a really great story for Iowa. It would be cool if they could kind of finish it and go to the Final Four as a 9 seed, because who doesn't like an underdog? But yeah, pretty wild.
Right. So what do you in the last segment of today's episode? Who is the most disappointing 1 or 2 teams that you've seen in the tournament so far? Which one did you really expect them to go further, and they kind of like gave you a bummer?
Well, for me, it was definitely Florida, right? Defending national champion. They'd been playing, really well down the stretch, despite getting, lit up by Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament. But for them to go out in the second round to Iowa, and they trailed a good portion of the game, was a huge disappointment for me. I mean, last year they had a lot of guys back, but I think that the key guy they were missing from last year's team was Walter Clayton Jr., the point guard, a veteran player, and they had a much greener backcourt this year heading into the tournament, and that's kind of where this stuff gets exposed is in the tournament, to see your guards are kind of going to drive your team and be the engine of your team. So that to me was the biggest disappointment that I had in my bracket. Carolina losing, I mean, I had them losing to VCU, not a surprise. Up and down season, best player Caleb Wilson, breaks a bone in his foot. So for them to go out, not a surprise. It leads to Hubert Davis losing his job. That one to me, Florida, the biggest surprise or disappointment for me.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Go ahead, Alex.
I had UVA as being the biggest disappointment. I actually had them in the Final Four.
Oh, okay.
And they just really came up short. And I mean, it's coming in as a 3 seed, and they played well in the first round, and then it was like, the wheels just came off and losing to Tennessee, and right, they lost to Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, they got
Yeah,
beat up. I
yeah,
think that's one of those games that coaches would joke about. You know, that game was lost in the weight room. You know, Tennessee
yeah.
is a big, strong team, and you know you got Virginia maybe a little bit more of a finesse team. I mean, it was a close game. I mean, it was only a 7 point game, but you know, Tennessee and kind of can wear a team down there. And you know, look, Virginia shot 35 3-pointers, made 12. I mean, that's what Tennessee does. They make you shoot the ball poorly. You know, you
Yeah.
shoot 39 and 34 respectively. You know, from 2 point and 3 point range, and you know that's kind of the result.
Yeah, so they were my biggest disappointment, I think.
How about Villanova though? I mean, to me, that bothered me a lot because I thought they would at least win a game. Did
Yeah, I
you? Did
mean,
you
you know,
do think they wouldn't win anything?
Utah State's one of those mid majors that seems to regularly make the tournament. I was disappointed as well, only because the pedigree of Villanova,
Yeah.
you know, the Big East being generally a tough conference, although they had a down year, a new coach in Kevin Willard, so more money was invested in NIL, you know, particularly based on how Villanova struggled, you know, previously, after Jay Wright left, and then Kevin Willard's comments when he was at Maryland saying like, "Hey, I don't get enough NIL support, not enough financial support." So I think all of that aligned at Villanova, and for them to go out early, you know, one of their starters, you know, got injured late in the season. Matthew Hodge, a freshman from St. Rose in Belmar in New Jersey, he was hurt. I don't know if that had any impact on it, but I mean, certainly if they had gotten past Utah State, they would have run into that Arizona buzzsaw anyway.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I mean, it's like I always feel there's momentum coming into the tournament. Usually, and we always talk about, are the conference tournaments worth it? Is it a smart move to do that? Should you really try hard to go through that tournament? If you have a dud in that tournament, does it give you time to prepare for the NCAAs,
Yeah.
or is it a hindrance because you don't have momentum? I still don't know that, but I noticed that a lot of teams that I really thought were a cakewalk in round one it didn't happen that way. It was surprising.
I just think it's a money thing, Brian, right? Like they're not big time football, and I think that's a big problem with all the Big East teams that, you know, not only do you need the donor, I mean, you need a significant amount of money. Like St. John has a billionaire basically backing them. And, you know, I think Villanova's like their payout was like 3 million for NIL. I don't know what the average school is, but I just don't know that they're going to be able to compete the way they used to unless they get a huge fund and bring in, you know, big time players because, you know, while they have the reputation and they have the history, it kind of ends there. I mean, beautiful campus, all that, but you know, I think these guys they all want to go to the SEC. You know,
Yeah.
that they all want to go to the Big Ten, and I think it. You know, we love Big East basketball, but I think that conference is going to struggle. I mean, look, they gave them 3 teams this year. That was it. They were traditionally a 6-7 team
Yeah, Seton Hall should have
conference.
been there.
They're just
Still
not. They don't have
bothers
the
me.
depth and the
They
money.
got ripped
Yeah,
off. They got ripped
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
Marquette, Creighton both fell off.
Xavier, Seton
Xavier,
Hall.
yeah, all like programs that are in the mix. I mean, Creighton, Greg McDermott ended up stepping down after the season. Marquette's got Shaka Smart, who's a great coach, but yeah, they're almost
But
on the
it's the money.
fringes of being a big conference, right? They're almost like
Yeah,
mid majors. Like, how much money is Marquette going to offer you to come to Milwaukee to play
right.
basketball,
Yeah,
right?
and it's going
So
to have to be a lot.
yeah,
Again, they have a great history, but it's going to have to be a lot because it's not. I mean, Alabama, what made I think profit 65 million or something in their football program last year. I mean, that pales in comparison to what, you know, Villanova's $3 million.
yeah,
You
and
know,
then Brian, to your earlier question about should teams just kind of go out early in these conference tournaments or try to make a run, and is there momentum? I think that whole thing is a coin flip because when you look at these teams that are in the Elite Eight, Arizona won their conference tournament. They won the Big 12. They beat Houston, so they kind of had to get through some really good competition. But when you look at the Big Ten, Iowa's in the Elite Eight. They didn't even make it to the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament. Illinois is in the final eight. They didn't get beyond the quarterfinals. But then you have Michigan and Purdue. They played each other in the championship game, and they're in the Elite Eight. So UConn hammered in the finals of the Big East tournament, and here they are in the Elite Eight. Duke won the ACC, had to play those extra games. Here they are, in the Elite Eight. Tennessee, I don't recall how far they got, maybe the semis or quarters, because the SEC is such a massive tournament. But yeah, it's like I always wonder that too. Like you just say, hey, we're not going to give our best in this tournament because I'd rather spend the days preparing and practicing, or even just resting.
Do you think they put the two Big East teams that they knew were the best teams in the same bracket so they wouldn't have two Big East teams in the Final Four?
That's interesting. I would not be surprised because I do feel like there is some nefarious activity there with these matchups, right? Like when you see St. John's and Kansas match up in the second round, you've got Bill Self against Rick Pitino. You've got Zuby Ejiofor, who started his career at Kansas. It's almost as if they are trying to create storylines at times.
And I get that, but to me, I think they're trying to limit the conference. Like we're not even going to allow two Big East teams to be in the Final Four.
I could see that, Alex. I could see that. I've actually seen an article about something like that. Other people have talked about this too. It could happen. Yeah, it could happen.
Because all the Big Ten and the SEC, that's where all the money goes from ESPN and Fox News for the Fox network. So,
and this tournament's loaded with those, right? I mean, you've got, other than that Duke UConn bracket, and we know that Duke is kind of a big moneymaker for CBS and all the channels that broadcast these games. So you've got them potentially in the Final Four. Then you've got definitely a Big Ten team getting in. Then you've got Arizona, Purdue, right? So another Big Ten team, and then Michigan, Tennessee. So you kind of spread out those Big Ten teams, across the brackets. And then you've got the potential of, if things break the right way, you could have 3 Big Ten teams and then a Big East or ACC team. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. See what happens. Okay. Well, let's wrap this up. I think we'll have a Final Four episode next week and maybe start talking some baseball. Because a lot's going on. I just one real quick aside before we before we close out tonight. Did you see Moses Moody's injury?
No.
Yeah, I like that guy so much. He's starting to come into his own. He plays good D, and he got the patellar tendon, whatever, ripped. Oh man, he's out. Yeah, it's a bad one. It's a real bad one.
Was it a non-contact injury? Just kind of.
Yeah, he went up for a dunk. You got to watch it. He stole the ball and went in for a dunk, and he couldn't. He went up in the air for the dunk, and he as he took off, it just buckled, and he never even made the dunk.
Never good when players get injured. I hate seeing guys get injured.
I was just so bummed. I like him so much, and that was a bummer for me. But okay, have a great week, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy some baseball.
This is Tom Carvel. Thank you for listening to 3 the Hard Way Sports Podcast. Remember to get a Fudgy the Whale or Cookie Puss for the next time you're sitting down to watch the big game.